The engine is still
For launch, GC, go. Guidance, go. Fido, go. Prop, go. GNC, go. Max, go. Eagle, go. Ecom,
go. Pending final steps to cabin link check.
2, 1.
Is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us? Can you give us a sign?
The engine is still
for launch, GC, go. Guidance, go. Fido, go. Prop,
Go.
GNC, go. Max,
Go.
Eagle, go. Ecom,
Go. Pending final steps to cabin link check.
2, 1.
Is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us? Can you give us a sign?
Welcome to the Riff Nation Network, the RNN, putting a slide in your glide and a dip in your hip. Welcome to the mothership, the home of the travelers of the universe. With shows throughout the week, you can find us at Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Everything you could want, everything you can need right here, right now. From the paranormal to the supernatural. From comedy to the spiritual. And now, your featured show. Shall we begin?
It's showtime, folks!
Podcast may contain material that some listeners may find sensitive, offensive, or disturbing. We strive to create respectful and informative content, but topics discussed may include mature themes such as violence, explicit language, or controversial subjects, triggering content including discussions related to mental health, trauma, or other sensitive issues, explicit language. Occasionally, our guests or hosts may use strong language. While we aim to handle these topics with care and empathy, we encourage listeners to exercise discretion. If you find any content distressing, consider skipping or seeking support. Remember that this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. If you need assistance, please consult a qualified expert.
Hey guys, how you doing? Don't judge me for my my choice of accessories today. I am going to explain before we step into tonight's episode. I wanted to take a moment for something very real. Many of you in the paranormal community know of T Dog. Recently on his birthday, he suffered a devastating stroke. And right now, he and his family need all the support we can give. If you're able to give, share, or simply send him love, he would greatly appreciate it. I've included his GoFundMe in the description below if you would like to send him something to help out in this hard time. Every little bit helps, and this community has always been the strongest when we come together. Now, to honor him, I'm going to explain all this, all right? And to help raise awareness and support, I'll be doing something I've never done before in any paranormal investigation. On my first ever public investigation, on the 30th of this month, I will be going to Cabin on 360. And with T Dog's blessing, I will be taking on his famous fear challenge in his honor. I will be spending 30 minutes chained into a location alone. I haven't decided if I'm doing the SDs or whether I'm just going to listen to white music or white noise and see what comes through. I've never tried to do this, so I'm definitely going to ask my guests tonight some advice to make sure I do this safely. I do have my boyfriend coming with me to monitor if I panic and start screaming to let me out to do so. It is going to be one of the most haunted rooms at Cabin 360. And I wanted to give a heartfelt thank you for Jenny Davis for inviting me on this investigation. And thank you to Sigmund for riding along and affirming my safety while I do this. And most importantly, T Dog, thank you for trusting me to carry this forward and for pushing me to face fear in a way I never have before. This one's for you, bud, because fear isn't always what we think it is. Before we get started, I'm taking this off because if you've ever dealt with chain, this is metal. It's very heavy. So let me get it off. Much better. Now, getting back on topic, what if things that haunt us aren't just places? What if the energy left behind isn't trapped in walls but carried through bloodlines? What if trauma doesn't give in memory but echoes through generations? And what if the people investigating the paranormal aren't just chasing ghosts but trying to heal them? Tonight we step into a world where science meets spirit, where the seen and the unseen collide, and where the truth may be far more personal than we ever imagined. Because tonight we are joined with Stacia Wills and Thomas Patrick Gormley from Wardruna and the minds behind that experience, which is more than just a movement built on uncovering hidden truth, but they're also trying to break cycles of generational trauma and restoring balance where others failed to look. So, as always, welcome and hello, all my fellow creepy little weirdos. My name is Christina. I'll be your tour guide through the unexplained, the paranormal, the just plain weird. And welcome here to Horror, History, and Haunting. Let's welcome our guests on. Hi. Sorry it was a little long, but that's what the Flavor Flav Mr. T look was about.
The big build up. You got to have the big build up. That's what it's all about to have a great show.
Right. Never thought the host would be in chains when you got on, right?
I don't know. If you're going to go back a little Christmas Carol and walk around in chains.
I was going to say that. I'm like, I'm not Scrooge McDuck back in the cartoon days.
That's the even better one.
But for those discovering you, and I just spilled Gatorade, like I'm chaos. No matter what I do, I can't just be like a normal person.
We can't take you anywhere.
Right? I can't do anything.
I can't take you out.
Right? I look good when I'm dressed up, but I'm still going to be chaos.
There you go.
For those that are just tuning in and discovering you for the first time, how would you describe yourselves and what drew you into this world?
Ladies first.
Me first?
You first.
I describe myself as, honestly, I grew up in the Appalachians, just a very, a simple life. We weren't rich. The family was huge, a lot of Russian traditions. But the one thing with my family is everybody was gifted, and it was unspoken. It was just like breathing. My mother was extremely, extremely gifted, and how do I say, when she taught us the craft, she did it in a way that you didn't realize it was the craft, if that makes sense to you.
It's like family
It-
traditions hidden.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. The thing is, though, is the family was very abusive, but there was also still a lot of love. I survived the abuse because of my cousins and, the alliance that we built. And we didn't speak about it. We just knew it was there and we were there for each other. But as, time went on and my gifts, I'm the creepy one of the family. Let's say that I'm known as the mole for, and but I'm also the generational curse breaker. So I decided to run, straight forward at a very young age and start breaking these cycles and maybe some traditions. I don't know what you want to call it. It's not good. But I can remember the Monday after Thanksgiving, 1989. I laid in bed and said, I will not be like them. And I took off on a path, and my spirit's guides spoke to me. My whole entire life, I could hear them. And I was very verbal about what they would say. And my mom would always say, if it came out of your mouth, it's going to be true. So I listened to them in my 20s and my 30s, and I just kept running forward. And they were telling me how to heal myself from the trauma. And they were sending me people, and they were talking about building this network of people. They were showing me this grid, and they kept bringing me one person after another. Some people have been permanently there. Some have fallen by the wayside. But, they've given me something in life, good, bad, otherwise, it doesn't matter. They're there for a reason. And after 20 years of doing this, I'm in a place where I can truly speak on my abuse. And, when I finally decided to step into this world full time and retire my other job, it was within like 72 hours. Tom comes into my life. So many things come into my life. So I knew
Wow.
Oh, absolutely. I knew it was the right move. And when my friend Gina and I, who basically built this system, opened up to Tom, it was just absolutely the right fit. We met them both, Gina and I met Tom, at the same time. And there were just soul connections between us.
That's
But,
awesome.
Tom has his own journey with his own healing.
Right.
And, it was just a perfect fit in how we worked together. But, the universe wants us to heal and wants us to break these generational ties. Even in the Bible, it says 7 generations. They're finding out that you have an inherited DNA for 10 generations. So you could be healing something that you have no clue what you're fighting. I mean, I call that the Don Quixote, you're just fighting windmills that you don't even know what you're fighting.
Right.
And, there's so many practitioners that once Tom came on board, the group of practitioners he had with the group of practitioners I had, we just come running together and we just hit full force. And every practitioner that is in Wardruna, Tom and I have utilized for our own healing.
Oh,
You
wow.
can't go through this journey, without utilizing it. And it's been an amazing journey. And, there's just so much peace that comes to you when you go through it. It's a birth. But at least that's, how I see, that's how, I have grown, how we've built this, and who I am and where I came from. But you can go ahead and go.
Yeah, well, it's just from the beginning. I didn't have that family tradition like Stacia had. You're born and raised a Christian family, Roman Catholic and all. I'm as Irish as you're going to get. So just by looking at me. So when people see me, they think I'm an Irish hitman. But,
It's the hat.
Yeah,
It's the
I'm
hat.
a very empathetic person and all that. But I didn't know that growing up. by the time I hit 14, 15 and started looking into things a little further, I got a chance because I grew up in Connecticut. If you grow up in Connecticut and you're into the spooky stuff, you're bound to meet Ed and Lorraine Warren because that's like a given. That's like a rite of passage growing up in the state of Connecticut. You know, during the I won't date myself, but unfortunately in the 80s. So, but
We're
I
all
met
in the
them.
same.
Yeah, I met them about maybe a month or two after their case that their nephew pretty much oversaw. John Zaffis was a haunting in Connecticut. That was in Southington where I grew up, and I got a chance to meet him. And you know, Lorraine helped me out discover why I felt the way I did when nobody else could. I developed from there, and I'm so appreciative of her helping me with the building blocks. So what I learned from them, I expounded on it and just kept growing that as time went on, to the point where people started calling me when they couldn't solve cases. And I would come in, and that's where I garnered the nickname, the Archangel of the Paranormal, because you just come in right at the right time and just try and solve the problem. But a lot of it was people were going in and not realizing that spirits still had trauma themselves. And my job was to go in and actually have conversation with spirit, whether it be through a listening device or just, you know, my intuition, and help them solve or realize why they're still here, their anchor here, and be able to help them release that. And they make that decision on their own. So with that, as you grow, you know, after my mom died, I really decided to be more in the public eye and start doing more events. And I met my business partner, Charles. We started, you know, became the shaman and the showman. So we do events all over, pretty much internationally and nationally. So we have stuff going on in England this year.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Also, and of course, New England. So we have the Connecticut Paracon coming up July 11th, the Salem Paracon, which is geared towards about November 14th. And then we have a Witch and Culture Festival that's in August. So those are three of the big ones that we run. But with that, you know, you get that reputation. And again, with the healing side of it, I really caught on with a show that we were both on, and we got to meet through that show, and we started filming a documentary that we ended up having to scrap, unfortunately, because of legalities there that we wanted to keep some people safe. So that's just kind of how we are. We don't want to expose anybody for things that were going on. But we did get to meet, and we met at this house, and yeah, it was one of those, you latch on, you lock eyes. And my whole thing is she'll tell you, my spirit guide since I was young would keep telling me about the crazy redhead. So growing up, I dated two, and they failed miserably. And I'm thinking, what are you guys talking about? It's like, what is with the redhead?
The redheads.
Yeah, and she come through the door, and I had been talking to her about really, you know, Stacia keeps very private and all that, and so I didn't really get to see a good picture of her, so I didn't know. So when I been talking to her for months, and then we finally meet, and she comes through the door, and I'm like, I start giggling because I'm like, oh God, here's a redhead. One of two things is going to happen. This could go really good or really bad. You know, and so far it's been awesome, and we've been growing Wardruna nationally and internationally, just helping people heal, helping people with paranormal issues, you name it, the whole gamut. Not only practitioners, we have people that work with us. We have psychologists, herbalists, anything you could think of that has to do with healing, Chinese medicine, anything that might help, any little thing, and to determine what that is. We have teams that do work with the paranormal issues, and a lot of people know that do these. If you really look at it, most paranormal investigations we've done, 95% of the time, it's trauma. So if we help them with that, the paranormal goes away. And it's been successful. We do get called from all over the country. Unfortunately, can't go to all of them, but we do have teams in place all over the country that could assist. We're able to talk to these people on the phone just to make sure that it's something that needs somebody to visit. And other than that, it's not just paranormal. We do have people that come to us that, they come to see Stacia to sit with her. Some of them don't want the stigma of going to see a psychologist. So Stacia and a lot of our practitioners are able to take that veil down and get them comfortable where they do seek the professional help that they need through our system.
And that's really how it starts is, I'll get a call. We have one of the largest diverse groups of shamans. And, I always put disclaimers on us because going to a shaman is different than going to somebody that's clairvoyant or a medium. We're a little different. So you have to put that disclaimer when somebody sits down. I'm like, have you ever been to a medium before? They're like, oh, I have. I'm like, okay, well, I'm a little different. We're going to talk, but, just sit back for a second. So when the ancestors start coming forward, what they tell me is right here in this section, this is what happened. And, I start pulling the trauma, they're either apologizing and it's the look on their faces when that's not what they were expecting. So you instantly just pull off that scab, but we've built up a system of support when that scab is pulled off. I have said this so many times, there are so many wonderful mediums out there, and there's mediums. There are, psychics, clairvoyants, whatever you want, to be labeled as, but you're only as good as the network and the support you have for your clients. How do you deliver a message and not have the support to back it up? You don't know, what they're going to need after you've given them that message. So we have the support. And I mean, Tom and I have stayed on the phone and we've walked people into ERs as I'm calling, emergency rooms and social workers. And, there are cases where we've actually had to get CPS involved, because that's very far and few between, but building a network, up of, of people. But when they're sitting in front of us and you rip off that scab of the abuse or the trauma or whatever, the family, what you want to call it, family curse, generational trauma, familiar demons, whatever you want to give the name to. And then you slide in front of them like, here is the therapist that can help you. It's beautiful. I mean, we have hypnotists. I mean, we have an amazing hypnotist. His name is Larry. We have Reiki healers. Once again, Jeannie, amazing people. And when you get you get them working through the system. It is wonderful. One of my favorite stories is a client of mine. Her name is Lisa. And yes, Lisa, I'm calling you out, honey. And she doesn't mind if I tell the story. She sits down in front of me and I just pulled off that scab and I looked at her and I'm like, and honey, you have gifts. And the scab I pulled off, she looked at me and goes, I really don't like you. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. And she's like, really, I'm not happy with this reading. And I'm like, did I not deliver a message? Yeah. She's like, yeah, no, it was a little too real. Just see you later. And she left. Didn't hear from her for a year.
Oh, wow.
I had given her the resources that she needed, like I do every client. And behind my back, she followed those resources. And within a year, I have this appointment booked, I'm not really good with names. I'm good with faces. So she comes through the door and I went, oh, hi, how are you? She sits down and goes, well, I followed everything that you said. I'm not sure if I like you or not. That's fine. Okay. By the way, you look beautiful. I told her, like, I don't know what you got going on, but you look beautiful. Well, everything you said was right. I know that, but okay. So I gave her a reading, and her and I have built this beautiful friendship. Her gifts have blossomed. She has now done events for me. And, but it was one of those things. She's like, oh my God, this system actually works. But I really didn't like you when you first spoke to me. But she was brave enough to, listen to what I said. You don't
Right.
have to like me. But she was brave enough and wanted that healing.
But
You know,
you're right, because sometimes people will come in because being a shaman or giving off that energy of that higher vibration,
Hmm.
people sometimes are repelled by you
yeah.
or
It's
they're drawn to
scary.
you. It
I
is,
think
and it's hard.
it's people don't want to hear their fears out loud sometimes.
But
And
it is, even in the paranormal, you with that, when they see you and you give off that energy, there's almost a fear, like we're saying, and there's people that'll avoid us.
Yeah.
I mean, like the plague, because they see it, and it's, I don't know what it looks like to them, but those are the types of people we wish would just come and sit with us, and be able to talk things out. But you go through that as a shaman. You go through that when you try and vibrate at a higher level to be able to heal these people. And everything they're going through, we've been through.
Yeah.
We've already been through, bought the T-shirt, ready to go back
Have
on
the
the
bumper
roller
sticker.
coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it all. But that's how it goes when you get to that point. And we'd love to have everybody get to that point. We want to guide and we want to run through the system when there's the need.
Yeah. And when Gina and I, when I met Gina, and that's an interesting story, but it's a great story. But when the universe put Gina into my life and I told her what I was doing, because she said to me, "Why are you collecting people?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm building a grid, and it's like this spider web, and this is what they showed me." And she's like, "Okay," and she's like, "No, I just want to stay in my hobbit hole." I'm like, "No, you need to come help me. You need to come help me." But the thing about it is we never ever set out to be into the paranormal world. We did not. I had a few practitioners kind of like, introduce me here, there. All of a sudden, I'm at Haunted Hillview Manor in Pennsylvania, which is, to me, one of the most amazing places to be. It's an amazing building, and the people, the owner is just a doll baby. But it's still, to me, not, it wasn't like deep paranormal. This was a poor farm. There's ghosts. I grew up with spirits. I grew up with house cleansings and everything, but I didn't go ghost hunting, if that makes sense. It
Right.
wasn't until I ended up on this show and meeting them, and still I was apprehensive about the paranormal world. There's a lot of drama there.
I'm
And
discovering that.
yeah,
I
I'm like,
really
"Uh-oh,
am.
honey, protect yourself." But then I looked at it and I'm just, I said to Gina, "There's a lot of unhealed people here. They're chasing their own demons. They have grief. They're looking for answers of loved ones. They're trying to understand the other side. There's deep trauma. So sometimes you're drawn to the dark places because maybe that's a comfort or answer or similarity." Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting journey. Like it says, it wasn't the paranormal that I, ever expected to be in. It was always more the healing side, the shamanic side. So the two worlds have, collided together. And when I met John Zaffis, I got this phone call one day, and well, it was a Connecticut phone number, and I was working with the Mohicans, not the Mohicans. Well, yes, the Mohicans.
Yeah.
Yes, it was
for
yeah,
research on some Indian
Yeah.
Indian land burial areas and wars that went on.
Yeah,
Just
so-
to do some research.
yeah. So I thought it, was one of them calling me, and I answered the phone, and he goes, "Stacia," and I went, "Yes." He goes, "This is John Zaffis. Do you know who I am?" I went, "Yes, sir, I do." He goes, "What are you up to?"
What are you
And
doing
he-
right now?
Yeah, and I'm like, "What?" He's like, "What are you up to?" So I started explaining to him. He goes, "You're the real deal." I said, "Well, I hope so, sir." And he goes, "No." He goes, "You're going to say I know." And I said, "Well, I'd like to be humble. These are gifts from the universe." He goes, "I'm going to be watching you." So he's checked in on me a few times.
I'm going to
And
be
then he
watching you.
actually, yeah. And I met him.
We love our Johnny Zaffis, the stalker, I guess.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's an amazing,
Yeah.
amazing man. And I met him last year at Ohio State Reformatory's Parapsychon, which we will be going next month, and he will be there again. And then I really got to spend time with him in Connecticut at Tom's Paracon. and he actually got to see the practitioners work. It was at that time, it was the largest gathering. There's what, 12
I
practitioners?
think it was 13.
Yeah,
we
like
had.
13. It was the largest, and we came from all across the country. Some of us just meeting for the first time. Even though I built a system, I didn't meet these people.
Yeah,
Only,
face to
just-
face.
not face to face, but it was just this soul connection. We've been working together, and we just collided in one spot, and it was beautiful. I mean, the energy. People were coming up and just telling us how beautiful the energy was. So since
Well, the
then,
energy was so good and the camaraderie was so good that we repelled the neighbors of our Airbnb and we got kicked out.
we got kicked out of the Airbnb.
They were wondering why there was a hearse in the driveway that the radicals drive.
And God loves Zappis. He stepped up and took us in. You know,
Aw.
I did win the dispute on Airbnb and got my money back. So I will say that.
Good for you.
Yeah, absolutely. There was no reason that should have happened. But yeah, I mean, just building the system, and you know, your trauma never goes away. We hit new layers of it all the time. I call that, like, you know, how they do the circular learning. You know, you learn a little bit division and then you go up. You know, you learn in single digits, double digits, triple digits. So you know, each time you get that little ping. And one thing I have learned is, you know, setting boundaries. That's something, you know, I'm getting back into, because when my son passed away almost 7 years ago, I just dropped my boundaries. Like, everybody needs love. Everybody needs to be part of it. You don't know when, you know, somebody's next day is. And I realized people can run up over you. And just because you're spiritual, and I had a guide tell me this one time, drops down in front of me and he's still, just because you're spiritual doesn't mean, you know, you can't get angry. And he's
I
like,
like that.
Jesus. Yeah, he goes, Jesus tossed tables. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So you're allowed to get upset. You know, it's how you act. Anger, being upset, any of that is part of healing. You have to let it out. But it's how you conduct yourself. I am responsible for how I treat you. You are going to be responsible and judged for how you treat me. And, you know, the truth always comes out. It always does. And, you know, when my son passed away, my first visit from him in a dream, and first of all, you have to understand, my kid had an IQ of almost 160. He spoke 5 languages. He was to be a naval nuke. I mean, this kid was talented. Any instrument he picked up, he could play. So from an infant, this child was just like, you know, learning. So he comes to me in this dream, and I said to him, you know, Bud, can I ask you a question? He goes, oh, I knew you were going to. And I said, have you found the answers to everything you were looking for? He goes, almost, Mom. And I said, what is the meaning of life? And he said, Mom, that's simple. He goes, it's love. He goes, I just wish everybody realized that it's love. And love is the highest form of vibration. And if you choose not to love somebody, at least just walk away. You can, you know, say how you feel, but it's how you say it. You are allowed laying down boundaries. But, you know, to hurt others, there's something inside of you that's unhealed. And that's what we need to look at, is why is that hurt there? And just take a moment, sit with it, and see how you respond. See what it is. You know, I might not be that person's cup of tea, but there is a practitioner in Wardruna that could be your cup of tea. When Tom and I put this group together, we set out to put a very diverse group. We don't talk politics and we don't talk religion, yet we have all politics and all religion within the group. Politics, somebody died for you to have that right, and so did, you know, religion. There is blood shed for us to have those. But we have to have the diversity in this group, because maybe I have somebody that's very conservative, we have to put them with a conservative practitioner. Maybe we have somebody very liberal, they need to go with a liberal practitioner. And these practitioners need to get along. You know, we might have somebody that's pagan or Orthodox or Roman Catholic or Protestant. We have it out there. You know, so It is unspoken in our group and it's respected. And, it's the diversity of this group that we've healed amongst each other.
That's
And it's,
beautiful in
yeah,
itself. Just so you could
absolutely.
have so many diverse people and still like have a professional respect for one another enough to be able to be at peace. Because like I've already seen it, because I'm new to this whole public paranormal stuff, and I've already seen the claws, cat claws coming out, and people, and I'm just like, that's just not me. I don't do that. I
It,
step back and I'm just like, you guys be you, that's fine, but
yeah.
no, that's
The,
not me.
the thing you have to realize, we're in the paranormal. Um, there's no answers really. You have to
Right?
really look at it. That's why
Exactly.
it's
There's nobody
paranormal.
that's right all
Yeah.
the time. Like,
Yeah, well, there shouldn't be really in this. We should be exchanging ideas and not competitive
Yeah.
because nobody's right or wrong about it. I've been at this for 40 years, and somebody could come in and only been in it one day and give me a different view that helps me realize, maybe something else in the repertoire to try and look at something. It's a lifelong chase for all of us. We'll be chasing this the rest of our lives. Unfortunately, I know there's a lot of scientific look at it. It's great. But unfortunately, I think in this industry, we can't repeat it enough. It may be a controversial for me saying that, but the thing is I think it's more of, can we talk to spirits? Can we hear their story? Can we get that whatever evidence? And I never poo-poo any evidence, because the thing is we don't know where it came from. Who are we to say that our creator, maybe there's a spirit that our creator says this is how they're going to communicate. They're going to use this piece of equipment. If we put a limit on things, we're never going to get the answers.
right, right. And that's the key. None of us really know what causes a spiritual phenomenon. So therefore there's not a right approach to anything. Or, technically, like I don't like the word expert. Like people throw around, oh, they're an expert. And I'm like, nobody's really an expert. Like the key to being an expert is keeping an open mind. And to me, like an expert, that definition is somebody that knows everything there is about what they're doing, and none of us do.
You
But
know, if we all just step back and have fun at this, heal at this, even spirits on the other side, we
They want to have
might,
fun too.
yeah. Oh, and we
right,
have such amazing stories. When we investigate, we try to have fun with it, and they enjoy it. But the message is there. So the message in a haunted location might be different for you than it is for me.
mhm,
But I look at it, and that spirit is giving you a message for your path. So there should not be any arguments on that. We're all on a path of healing. I always say, I don't know why everybody fights. Do you realize how many people lived on this earth since the dawn of time? There's more than enough spirits for all of us to talk to. And the
right,
universe is also going to put down in front of you who is needed at that moment, either for you or for them. And there's times I've walked away from a session with a client that I noticed I have been healed a little bit. So they also gave me a message, or how they went, through something and their perspective. I'm like, oh, I like that. Can I please share that? That's growing. Would you like to tell your story? But it's all about growth and healing. It isn't about, you know, having your name in lights, or a star on the walk of fame. That's not what it's about. There are people out there that are really good, and they are meant to give that message. They're meant to be on that stage, and maybe it's just a catalyst to get people to go on their healing journey. Maybe that's all it's about, and they've done their job. But when I look and starting trouble and everything else to deny somebody their healing path, always kind of confuses me and makes me wonder what's inside that person that doesn't want others to be healed.
right.
It's big. It comes down to experience.
Yeah.
There's no experts. There's
No,
experience.
there's experience.
But the thing is what we're saying earlier about going on your first paranormal investigation or anything like that. Anybody out there, let's just say Stacia and I are going to a party. We don't know anybody there, but yet there's a couple people that we end up talking to. It's the same thing in the spirit world. The difference is the meat suit's not there. You go into a house or something like that and you start trying to communicate. Not everybody's going to want to communicate with you. Just like at a party, and like you may not vibe right, you know, but some people vibe with them. So if there's a group of you in there, let's say there's 10 people, the spirit might latch on to somebody that they vibe to and communicate with them, and you go with it. You know, again, just like Wardruna, not everybody's going to vibe with that particular practitioner. That's why we have other ones so diverse. So what we see in the spirit world is what we provide through Wardruna also. You know, all this is about is to help your client and to help spirit.
Absolutely.
That's why you should be in this industry. Doing home cases, not everybody should be doing home cases, especially because that's a totally different monster to do it properly. You can't just run in there with equipment and all this other stuff. There's a lot of psychological stuff behind it first. If you don't approach that properly or do your history properly, you can get all the evidence you want, but it may not give you that family the conclusion, and they could spiral even worse. So you could do more harm than good. So we got to be careful.
Exactly. And that's where I kind of fell into it was, you know, in the private, like I never saw myself doing this stuff in the public realm at all. It was more or less just to help people, you know, feel at peace in their home. And, you know, that's kind of, I was the weird one, like, because a lot of people knew me.
Weird.
Yeah, the best people are weird.
Yes.
But like I was Wiccan for like 16 years. And then I had, well, to make a long story short, I come from childhood trauma. So that started kind of my curiosity about the beyond. And then I was Wiccan for 16 years. And then I met a wonderful man. He died suddenly. And so, and we've talked personally about this a little bit, that, you know, I kind of hated everything. So and there was experience that I was having that I don't think I was ready for. So I kind of shut it all off. And it's like, okay, I'm not believing anything. You know, all the stuff I'm seeing is in my head. These, you know, these things that are happening to me, like it was too much. And now I kind of have been thrown into the spotlight. I'm rethinking, because I've had a lot of people tell me, like, no, Chris, you are a little sensitive. Like, the weird things that happen, there's a reason that they happen. Hi, kitty. Sorry, ADHD on top of it.
That's Georgie.
Okay. Hi, Georgie. And hi, Georgie. We float down here. Sorry. That
It does.
it's took me, you know, I was 25 then. I'm, you know, 46 going on 47 now. And I'm re-entering that era of like trying to let myself be okay with that again, and like opening up communication. Like I never really, I would say, had spirit guides or knew any of that. I just had a lot of weird occurrences that happened around me that people couldn't explain away. And I would like know things and call people and the panic and, you okay? And then like, that's why I said I was the weird family member. I was the weird when stuff went weird in their home or whatever. They're like, oh, I know a guy. Let me call her real quick. And they would ask me, hey, can you come over here and like tell me like if you feel something or if it's something I need to be worried about. And that's how I kind of got into it. And then I met Adam and some other people, and then I got thrown into the public stuff. But yeah, this will be my first public, because I've never did like the big pay public investigations before. So this will be my first one doing that.
They're much easier.
So I want to tell you, this is a perfect time for you to reopen your gifts. this is the time, and we're just going to talk woman to woman, you're going through a change. You're probably perimenopausal. And when you stop giving that life force out, you can bring it into yourself. Does that make sense? The energy stays in. Can I ask you something? Because as you're talking, and my spirit guides, they read, the messages I get are very nostalgic, and food is one thing, probably why I'm fat, because every time I'm done with a reading, I'm hungry for that food. What's up with Planters peanuts?
Planters peanuts.
You know the peanut guy with the monocle and the hat? And
We used to play a lot. Well, it's not the monocle, but like my mom loved mixed nuts.
she like mixed
And
nuts in the can. Okay.
well, not just in the can, like every year she would get that, big bag of like the
Yeah.
walnuts and everything with the nutcracker and the little
Okay.
picky
Yeah.
thing and with the big
Yeah, my
bowl.
dad always did, yes.
She always liked nuts, and
Okay,
she's
well then that's who that is, because it just, what it was is I was getting like, the jar of nuts, and then the Planters peanut guy, he like stepped off and he's dancing. I'm like, what's up with nuts? Like, okay, so that's your
I'm a
mom. Your
little
mom's
nuts.
here. Okay, your mom's here. Okay, that's who it is. I'm just like, but but they come through with food, because what do you remember about people? You
Mm-hmm.
remember, their food, their smells, everything very nostalgic.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, the journey itself is healing, can be scary, but it's also the most beautiful journey when you made peace with your demons. And the fact that I said demons, when we go back to home cases, I wish everybody would stop calling things a demon. When I say healing our demons, I'm using that in a generic form, okay? But
Right.
these home cases go in and they tell people there's demons. Your chance of running into a demon is minute, okay? And, most of the time, man, are you active? I'm getting just pops everywhere here. But the most of the time it's trauma, and they just have to face their trauma. And once again, that's where Wardruna comes in. So, for example, you're doing a home case,
Mhm.
and you're looking at this and going, wait a second, I need support. You can call into Wardruna, Tom, and then Mary Jo Chudley, who is amazing, who has Penn Paranormal. Between her and Tom, they do the home cases, and you'll be in touch with them. So they, you might need, me pop in. I can like drop down and tell you what I'm seeing, but we'll start getting the support that they need. I mean, it's anywhere from, guidance to AA, treatment for substance abuse, domestic violence. Maybe it's just a therapist because past trauma. And our therapists are very open. So if grandpa is standing at the end of the bed 10 minutes before he died or 10 minutes after he died, they're completely okay with that. They're okay with hearing voices. But, we have to be responsible for home cases. We really have to. If you're going to go in there and do that, you have to put yourself at a higher standard. You have to understand that more than likely these are the ancestors calling, and we have some form of trauma that needs to be addressed.
Oh, I've got a ton of trauma. I know that for a fact.
Hilarious.
And I think that's partly why like I was pulled into this world. But like my childhood trauma, I have a condition, it's called selective amnesia from when I was younger. So I don't remember a lot of the actual trauma. I remember my tools to disassociate, and how my brain remembers things is a little bit different because of the trauma. But when it comes to like other things, like as an adult, like I remember, but when I'm a kid, it's very muggy.
The body is amazing. The mind is amazing that it blocks that for survival. It really is, a wonderful piece of equipment, and that is a survival technique.
And it's one of those things. Can you overcome trauma without picking at the scabs about
Um,
what actually happened?
I'm going to say yes or no. First of all, I did not have that. we talk about it. He says a lot of his childhood he doesn't remember. I remember everything. But I think I was meant to remember everything so I could build a healing network. But do I think you could overcome it? Yes. Do I think there's obstacles to it? Yes. Because you're not facing it head on. So I think the mind, you know that something happened there. So then you're constantly going back. But that's also, I've had cases where the mind will let you know and let you remember as you're healing. So
Okay.
you might not remember now, but you might have a dream. You heal so far, and then it's going to allow another little piece. And you don't want to force that, because there are things forcing it can cause certain things like seizures. You
Oh
can
wow.
have seizures, everything, if you force things too much. Children are known to have seizures when there's abuse around. I had them.
Oh wow.
So, it's an overload of the mind. But you have to take these things in baby steps. So that's why, once again, I talk about that spiral healing. You heal what it is. You have that little ping or that little memory, or you have an inkling that something's there. Then you work on that.
Yeah.
The mind will let you, peel it back little by little. And I've seen amazing cases where what unfolded by the end was such traumatic abuse, but the mind allowed them to heal in baby steps to then fully understand the full, what has happened to them.
And one of the best examples that I remember is from a TV show about healing and chipping away at things, and always constantly taking a look at. I'm a big fan of time travel and all that, but there was a movie about it, but then they had a TV show called The Time Traveler's Wife. Okay. Now, in this, the guy that travels, whenever a trauma happens, he tends to leave and go somewhere, part of his life or part of the woman he's with's life, and they keep, intertwining. But the time traveler, a lot of this started when his mother died in a car accident with him in it. So on the show, I thought it was very, very well done and dramatic, where every time he goes back, he leaves a little piece of him. So they showed a scene of him going back and looking at the car accident, all these different areas, but he stays there. So when he goes back, he could see 100 of him placed all over this area, looking at the scene and trying to heal something little by little every time he goes back to try and figure out, what it was and how to overcome it. We do that in our minds. I call it the time traveling thing, where I have a theory where, let's just say you're having a bad day, okay, and all of a sudden your favorite song comes on, okay. Now you go back in time when you first heard that song and you have a good feeling of that, then all of a sudden you're feeling better. That song made you go back in time and healed you and gave you a good thought to take care of you right now, which will lead to your future, that your day will be better and the rest of the day will be good. So it's like a time traveling healing type of thing. And I firmly believe in that. And they take a lot of context from stuff like that. And sometimes they do these shows really well, where it really shows the healing side of stuff and really gives you a good example. I'm going back my history. I worked in the state of Florida, a psychiatric prison. I had to profile these inmates in case something happened in the region for crisis management. So being a behaviorist, so you start learning those different things, almost to the point where you learn trauma sometimes lead to different things, where people become serial killers or murderers or end up in prison. But we have to get a hold of those. And we have to learn that, we're all human, we're going to make mistakes, but we have to understand what that mistake is, what it stems from in our past, our trauma, to get us to do that, heal that, and try not to make that mistake again, but learn from it to rise up. And that's what we try and provide with Wardruna, that path. Whether you're really young or you're, a lot older, there's always time to heal. You're never too old.
I agree. Like I've never hid like my mental illness, or because I always joke. I'm like, yeah, I got the souvenir sticky stocks. Like
Mhm.
it's just a part of my story, because like everybody out there, I think people don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
And it's like, simply because you've been through something horrible doesn't make you destined to be a horrible person. And in a way, in my case, I think it made me the opposite, because I saw the ugly and I felt the pain, that now I want people to be nice to each other and be that 5 minutes of sunshine. So, because you never know what somebody's going through. Like, because I fight my own demons every day. So it's like, I'm not going to be that person that ruins that person's day. I want to be the person that gives them a smile, maybe brightens it a little bit, so they can go on and maybe have a better day. That's always just been my philosophy.
And that's beautiful. When my son passed away, I had so many people reach out and say, what did you do? What did you say to raise such, an amazing child? And I said, I told my son that God is like Baskin Robbins. There's only one flavor. Pick your flavor and enjoy it, but don't back somebody else's flavor. You can try their flavors. But I also told him that we were created in the image of God. And it didn't matter if you were a brain surgeon or you packed groceries. We are created in the image of God. Everybody has their role. But I would also tell him that animals were created in the image of God. And if they've given their life for you to have a meal, give them thanks. Blades of grass, bugs, trees, give thanks, take care. They too are created in the image of God. But I always said, be the reason somebody smiles. You hear so many people go, I opened a door for somebody, or I did this, and they didn't say thank you. You don't know what was on their mind. Open that door. It doesn't matter. They could have just been diagnosed with cancer. They could have just lost their mother. But they sit down that night and go, wow, that person opened a door. You've left a little mark. Just be that person. But, setting good boundaries, because there are people that will just take advantage of you. They will run up over you, and it's okay to say, no, I don't like that.
Yeah, I've had to learn that, like, the hard way. I've had people where I've tried to help them, and it caused me a lot of suffering later on,
Well, let me
because
ask you,
of it.
did you try to help them, or did you try to fix the situation so it would be better for them?
Probably the latter.
Yes. So, and this is very common, and we've all done this.
Yep.
So when somebody comes to you and they're like, I need help, you can help them. But they're going to come back to you in 2 weeks with the same problem. Why? Because you did their lesson for them. So you can help them in a way, but you don't do it for them. That is that kind of guilt that we have, that when we do a good deed, it is no different than doing a drug. Our chemistry in our mind, it kicks up. It feels good. But then when that crashes and the person comes down, it creates a toxic, bond again.
Cycle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that cycle. So we have to learn to set our proper boundaries. And that is a constant learning thing. Like I said, I'm redoing that now, because after my son passed, I didn't want to say no to anybody. Life is short, people this. And then I
Yeah.
realized I was just getting trampled on, and it's not a good feeling. And, we have to set those boundaries. But, I grew up with a mother who was very mentally ill. And she too was a shaman, but she could only take her healing so far. And, then I realized I was the next step in that healing, in that process. Because I told you, when I laid in bed, I can tell you the day it happened. That's how pivotal it was. I mean, but, my mother was a very fractured soul. And I feel I was robbed of a mother. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that I don't have good moments of her. I had to sit back after she passed away, and I took care of her. She was very abusive to me. But when she got pancreatic cancer, I was there. I never left, and I was very good to her. And I remember her looking at me saying, Stace, it's nice to finally get to know you. And I said, Mom, it's 40 years. This isn't the time or the place. I'm taking care of you. And I told her, she's like, don't be like that. I says, Mom, you need to get right with your maker. I'll be judged and you will be judged for how we treated each other. But the thing about it is after she passed, those feelings come up and now I'm mad. And I have nobody to be mad at. She's gone,
Right.
So it's that Don Quixote fighting windmills again. And I had to sit back, and I was talking to my baby sister. I love her, most beautiful little creature. She is the first thing I actually ever loved in life. I was in high school when she was born. She was one of those little change of life, oops,
That
we're
was
pregnant.
me.
Yeah, just a little change of life there. But she was the first thing I ever actually loved. And her and I were talking, and we were talking about mushroom hunting with our parents on the weekend, and gardening and crocheting and sewing. And I said, oh my God, that was my mother's love language,
Mhm.
So sometimes love doesn't look like the Hallmark movies or the Leave It to Beaver. That's not what it looks like. So you might have abuse, but what is that love language? So after I sat with it and I started going over the happy memories and then healing the bad memories with like EMDR and, DBR and all these, hardcore, treatments. And that's what we actually recommend is, getting to the core of it. We're the talk therapy, we put you into just resetting your brain.
Well, we are the ones.
For the people that don't know what that is, can you briefly explain?
Yeah.
Yeah, EMDR is a rapid eye movement. And so if you've ever been upset, did you ever notice you rock back and forth or you tap your feet or your hands? The brain instantly wants to reset itself. So when you go into EMDR, you hit a core memory. And I'm going to give you the example of mine. So I'm working with this therapist. We're doing EMDR. And I love her to death, but she cries at a drop of the hat. And I said, girl, I wish I could cry. I am not a crier. And she goes, why is that? I said, I don't know. I remember crying when I was little, but there's some point it just stopped. So we're working together. We're building, different things within Wardruna. And all of a sudden there was the ping. I had the memory of why I don't cry. And I called her and I said, I know why I don't cry. She goes, do you need some EMDR? I said, yes, I do. So I drove to her place, and she has these beautiful horses. She's an amazing therapist. And
Thank you.
I told her the memory, and it was something my mother did to me. And I got hurt, and I think I probably was being a little whiny during this period of time. But there was a lot of fighting in the house, and little kids don't know how to express themselves. Sometimes it's with whining. So I fell and I got hurt. And she snapped a little picture of me on her little Kodak camera with the little flashy thing. And she had it developed, and she stuck it on the refrigerator. And she drugged me over as she put it up there, and she goes, there, I'm going to make you look at that every time you cry to show you how ugly you are. And I'm going to show it to everybody. So from that moment, I didn't cry. She would beat me, and she'd look at me and go, why aren't you crying? I said, I won't give you the satisfaction. And it was at that moment, we worked through it. So we hit that memory, and she said, how it works is you tell the memory, you say about you gauge it from 1 to 10. How does it make you feel? I was like at a 7 or 8. And so she says, sit with that memory. And she does this back and forth, and you have to follow it, the fingers about 30 times. And then she says, okay, what did you see? I'm like, well, I was over at the refrigerator, and my mom was yelling at me. She goes, well, how'd you feel? At first, when I first was telling her, I felt helpless because I was a child. She goes, okay, so when your mother was standing there yelling at you, how did you feel? I said, pathetic. The whole situation was pathetic. She goes, go with that. So you go back and forth, and you come back, and she goes, okay, so what did you see? I said, well, what was weird is I was no longer a child. The brain actually starts rewriting the memory. I'm like, I was an adult standing next to my mother. And she goes, well, how'd you feel? And I was like, disgusted. I was disgusted. She said, okay. She goes, go with that, disgusted. So back and forth she goes. My eyes are going. And she goes, so what happened when you went to the refrigerator this time? I said, I didn't didn't go to the refrigerator. I got up when she called me. I looked at her, said, fuck you, and turned around and went and sat back down in the living room. That is now the memory that is implanted in my head. I went home and I cried. I'm like, oh my God, I cry now. But that's how it does it. So it took it from this intense situation to, I was down to, I had no distress over it. And now I can release, crying is healthy. And so that's really how that works. Now,
I had to learn that myself, that crying's okay. It's okay to break down.
Okay.
Even if it doesn't make sense, just let yourself cry it out, because it's the best thing you could do.
Just let it go. So the DBR is something that happens right here and right now. So it's more of a hypnosis. You go into the state. It's a little different, as she's talking and putting you into this hypnotic state. I end up, every time I end up itching and twitching, the antihistamines, I start going into shock. So I have a lot of reaction to it. And afterwards, you have to understand, on both of these treatments, you can be sick for a couple of days. You can have throwing up, diarrhea, migraine, tired.
Purging.
Yeah, it's just getting it all out of your system. So don't think you skip along. There's days of healing. It's just like when you get a massage, you have to drink water, relax, detox the body, all that kind of stuff.
I can't do massaging.
I love them. But
I have fibro, so deep tissue, anything is painful for me. So unfortunately, the deepest massage I can get is kind of like a gentle.
Yeah. I love to be beat up. I really do.
Tom.
No, not me.
Look at the face get red though.
Not me.
But so these therapies really, really work. Now I'm having a hard time sleeping, and I did just get out of a 10-year relationship where my estranged stepdaughter had borderline personality. I'm going to tell you she's a sociopath, but diagnosed borderline. And my estranged husband is antisocial personality. Stopped taking his medication. That's a whole, ball of wax right there. And there is parts of me that don't want to sleep. So I am going for a sleep, a type of sleep study. But it, what it is, it's another way with the therapy to retrain the brain to sleep. Like I said, we're always healing. We are always healing. And, I love to talk to my clients about it, because I'm like, oh, I got you. Here, I've done this, and this, I've done this, and it works. So go ahead and try it. So yeah, I've literally been the guinea pig on, a lot of things, and it's very helpful.
It is. You got to look at a lot of the trauma as people that overcome alcoholism like I did. And what it is, it's always there. It's always in your mind, that memory, why you drank or why you did this, and those types of times to heal. But I look at it as a shelf. I have a shelf behind me in my brain, and I take that trauma or I take that memory and I put it on the shelf and I let it collect dust. It's there. I just refuse to dust it off. I have to come to that moment and do that. And just even with others, where I like to say, when we're helping people heal, some things are ugly. We don't want to look at them. So what we do with Wardruna, in a way, is I bring you to the mirror. I put you in front of the mirror, and then I stand back and let you look. I don't stand in front of you in the mirror. I can't do that, because when you heal, I could give you the words, but you need to accept it. It's the same thing when I work with spirits that are stuck here. I could give you the words, but you need to make the decision to heal yourself. Even when I go to a home investigation, if that behavior brought in the paranormal to your home, if you don't change that behavior, what I did there 3 days later is probably going to come back.
Right.
That's our life. Anything that we do, paranormal, our normal life, anything, there's consequences without taking a step forward. Unfortunately, we do have to face the ugly sometimes. Not everything's great, fine and dandy, unicorns, farting rainbows or anything like that. we have to look at it, and we have to look at ourselves and be honest with ourselves. Too many people out there are not honest with themselves. It's an ego game. People have different sides of their ego that don't allow them to take that step forward. Sometimes we just have to let go of that ego, let go of what's holding us back, and just ask for help. And somebody will be there. And unfortunately, sometimes they're going to make you look in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
But from there, you could create your shelf and put all that stuff on there and let it collect dust. And that's what we try and provide for everybody when they come for our services and what we could do for them.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I didn't get to hardly any of my question, but that's okay, because I think you answered a lot of the stuff that people needed to hear tonight, most definitely. Now, closing thoughts. With somebody that is having issues or they do need help, how can they get a hold of you to go through your process of healing?
They can contact us on either one of our Facebook pages.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a website that's going up. We're putting a lot of the practitioners on it right now. But, I even have a phone number, I can give it. It's 814-475-0100. But, really getting on, Facebook and just, sending a friend follow, sending us that private message, I get back to you right away.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Come see us all over the country this year for all our
right.
Yeah.
Your world tour.
But just, even just, reach out to you and you send us a message. There's
Exactly.
always ways to, to find us. The universe is going to allow that to happen.
Just anybody
Most
watching the show, if they know even other fellow investigators where they run into that, I don't know what to do next, just reach out to us, and not only we're not taking it over, we're going to teach you the tools to be able to help you get beyond that roadblock and just keep improving and be there for people. And, do we have all the answers? No, nobody does. But we provide a service that helps you get answers within yourself. And that's what we want to do.
And it's building that network. It's truly building the
most
network.
definitely.
Yeah.
I agree. Now, I hate to go. We kind of ran a little 15 minutes over, which is fine. There's nobody after us. Is there any closing thoughts that you would like to share before we do the outro?
Just love is the highest vibration. Just, be kind. If you don't get along with somebody, walk away, but walk away with grace and dignity. Don't take a person down or hurt them just because you're unhappy with yourself. Just love is the highest vibration. We're all going through something.
I completely agree with that. Now, just as closing, tonight we didn't just explore the paranormal. We stepped into something much deeper. A place where memory lingers, where energy holds on, and where the past may not be as buried as we'd like to believe. Because sometimes what haunts us isn't just what we see in the dark. It follows us into the light. A huge thank you to Stacia Wills and Thomas Patrick Gormley for joining us tonight and guiding us through the intersection of spirit, science, and the unknown. If tonight's episode made you think or maybe even question what you thought you understood, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who walks the line between curiosity and fear. And if you're not ready to sleep just yet, there's always another story waiting for you just beyond the veil. As always, thank you all for watching. Good night and sweet dreams. Bye-bye, guys.
Good night.
I can't find it, of course. Bye.